Welcome everyone. Hello. This is a very special live stream today because we're going to mostly do a rig rundown. I so appreciate everybody being here. I'm just going to play a couple songs off the top. We actually just lost an amazing producer today. I just read the news. Steve, I think it's Albini or Albini, who produced a lot of like Nirvana's records in the 90s. And so I'm going to start a song with a tribute to him. The dude's like, "Hey man," is that the guy you're talking about? The Nashville dude? "Hey man, welcome to Rig Rundown." Everybody, hi JV, hi Eric, hi Suleiman, hi Jill, hello. Anybody else who's tuning in? What else should I be? All apologies. What else could I say? Everyone is gay. What else could I write? I don't have the right. What else should I be? All apology. In the sun, I feel as one. In the sun, I'm married, buried. God, I love the sun. Hi, Evangelist. Hello, welcome. Wish I was like you, easily amused. Find my nest of salts. Everything's my fault. I'll take all the blame. Aqua sea foam shame. Sunburn with freezer burn. Choking on the ashes of her enemies. In the sun I feel as one. In the sun, buried, 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 yeah, 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 yeah. First time I've ever played that for anybody. Seemed like a perfect time today. Well, again, welcome to this hopefully organized in some way kind of live stream. Who am I kidding? It's probably going to be unorganized. But I'm so excited today to do this rig rundown, and I was gonna make a video and like a multicam video, which I started earlier this week, and then I had this thought, man, this would just be so much better if we did this over a live stream, and then I can field questions, and if you have any, and explain things that way. So I'm gonna play one more song, and then we'll jump into that and take all the questions and all that good stuff. Hi, Annika. So good to have people here. Is it Vangelis? Am I just kind of a dumb American who's pronouncing it wrong? I've never seen you here. This is awesome to have you here. I'm curious of how you found me. I've promoted this live stream all over Facebook groups, so it might be one of those places, or I may have just showed up. Oh, thanks, JV. Appreciate it. I was just messing around with that today, and I was like, I'm going to try to play that. Needs a little work. But yes, hello, friends. Welcome to the Rig Rundown. Oh, hello, friend. Good to see you. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to see, I did one of these rig rundowns on a different app, and I tried to do a scene change within OBS, and it kind of screwed everything up. But let's see if it works this time. Hold on. Okay, I think it's going to switch over in 1 second. Let's see here. Okay, can you see that? Oh, thanks, friend. Appreciate it. So I have a camera over me right now, and then the camera I was using. So hopefully this gives you a little bit better of a glimpse. And is my audio still coming through, hopefully? Because that's what happened on Insight Timers. My audio went out. Okay. All right. Sound is here. So what I thought I would do is I want to tell you guys a little bit of my looping history, and then that'll kind of inform a little bit of how I got to this space. And then I actually prepped some documents too that we can put up as well. But first, if y'all want to see what my production studio looks like, I took a picture of it, and let's see. This is what the production studio looks like. It'll pop up here in just a second. Okay, so that is that's what my room looks like that I'm filming in, that I do all these live streams from. So so I have like overhead lighting, and you can see under one of the lights on the left is a monitor, and then I have all my stage lighting around me that gives me like the pink hues and all that kind of stuff. So even though we aren't necessarily talking about production today, I thought I'd give you guys kind of a behind the scene vision of what is behind the camera. Okay, let's get off of that. Let's go back to let's go back to the camera. So, here's how I got introduced into looping and all of that good stuff. In 1992, all the way back to 1992, I was this good church kid, and a bunch of people in my church said, there's this phenomenal guitar player coming through town, and his name is Phil Kagi. And he's like, you gotta see this guy. And nobody really knew what it was about, but I knew he was like this phenomenal guitar player and singer. I don't know if anybody knows who Phil Kagi is. He's like, he's an absolute badass. But anyway, I show up, and he has like all these pedals around his, like on the stage. And at that point, I mean, I was 13 in 1992, so, you know, I was just starting to play guitar. I didn't even really know about pedals. But he comes out, and he just starts laying down all of these layers. And he like sings into his guitar, and his guitar goes back. Now remember, this is 1992, so it was not like there was oh, wait a minute, hold on one other thing. I want to take the reverb off. It's like really echoey. So so he's like doing all this stuff, and I'm like, what in the heck? He's like making his guitar repeat back what he does, and like I said, he's like singing into the sound hole of his acoustic guitar, and it's like that what he's singing is going back. And we were all blown away, because at this point, obviously there wasn't looping, there wasn't any of that kind of stuff happening. And did a little bit of research and was like, okay, so he's using this piece of equipment called the Jam Man. I think it was by Digitech at the time. And it was way too expensive. I could never afford it. So I was like, oh, that's amazing. And then I came across I was really into Dave Matthews especially in the 90s. And he plays acoustically with this guy named Tim Reynolds, who's this phenomenal guitar player. And I would listen to some recordings, and he started doing kind of some of the same stuff, but it wasn't like he was like creating loops. It was like he was creating sustained sounds that were happening that he would play over top of, and realized that was, after some research, a Boss digital delay pedal that had an infinite repeat on it. So I was like, I can't afford one of those. So I bought a Boss pedal that did some infinite recording. This is probably about 1998. So I'm a freshman in college, and started messing around with that. And then Line 6 came out with, this is the actual first real loop pedal I bought, the Line 6 DL4. This thing's from like 98 or 99. And it had an actual loop function on it that did 14 seconds of loops, and would repeat. So it wouldn't just repeat everything you did back. It would repeat. You could use the pedals to like do what Phil Keaggy was doing. So I bought one of these, and I started putting it into my act, but it was just guitar. So I was just doing guitar stuff, and had no idea that my mind was about to get blown, because then I came across a guy in 2000 named Keller Williams. And Keller Williams was he's in the jam band scene. So like, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's like what the scene that the Grateful Dead began, and then bands like Phish. And Keller Williams came around, and he somehow was looping all of his instruments. So like his beatboxing voice, his guitar, he had a bass on a stand, he had a synth guitar, everything that he had on stage, he was looping, and he was doing it through a Gibson Echoplex. Zoom forward a few years. Now I'm like, oh, so I can actually loop. So 21-year-old Rob in 2000's like, oh my gosh, I can loop all my instruments. So I started looping through the DL4, because I definitely couldn't afford a Gibson Echoplex. It was like crazy expensive. So I did that for years, and then Boss started releasing a bunch of looper pedals. Their first kind of major looper pedal was called the RC50, and I could afford that. So I bought an RC50. And it allowed you to, it was just a better looper than that. And it gave you more functions like clear and undo, and meaning like, you could like do a part and then push undo. And if you messed up the part, you could take the part away. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I bought a synth guitar. I put a pickup on my synth guitar, kind of like Keller Williams did. And I was a really bad beatboxer, but I tried beatboxing. So in the early 2000s, I was starting to do a little bit of that. And still, looping was not a thing. I mean, some people were kind of getting into it, but it wasn't this thing. And then eventually I was able to afford a Gibson Echoplex. So I bought a Gibson Echoplex. That changed my world. And I'll zoom forward a little bit just so we're not stuck on my story here. Eventually I got into Ableton, because Ableton, which is a software program that is for production and kind of DJing, but they do a lot of like live looping stuff. They created a live looping app within or a plugin rather, not an app. And if you had a MIDI controller, you could hook up your MIDI controller to your computer, and then you could loop that way. But what was cool about that is you could insert like pre-loops into it and trigger it, and it'll all sync together. So I started doing Ableton, but it had limits. And one of the biggest limits of it all was that I was relying on a computer. And computers at that time were not, this is like late 2000s, so 2006, 2007. They were not sturdy. And I would go out and do gigs, and at times my computer would crash and my whole looping thing was down. So I decided to go back to some Boss products. I got a this, which is the Boss RC300, which is like the better version of the RC50. Started using that a little bit. Then eventually Headrush a few years ago came out with the infamous, and it's very infamous, looper board. And the reason it's infamous is it looks really good and is actually built like shit. It, for so many people, became, including myself, became a paperweight because the internal engine in it totally broke. You had to re-put, their switches were bad, so you had to put new switches on, and it was like $1,000 pedal. And so I used that for like a year, and then the RC600, which I'm using now, which is where a couple of my friends here I'm connected to because there's a Facebook group that is the RC600 that came out, and I have loved it ever since. And so and all the stuff that you see in front of me, like I didn't buy this all at one time. I've acquired it over many years and have kind of put in, different instruments, and it changes all the time. And that's one of the things about doing one of these rig rundowns is my setup next week might be different than this week, but this is my setup now. And I guess that is the case for like most musicians who do this kind of stuff, is we can switch around stuff all the time. So, anyway, under the description of this video, today, I have listed all of everything I use right now. So you can reference that. So I'm not just like going through and being like, this is a Roland HandSonic. You can see it in the description of this video. I think it's there. Hi, Aaron. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for stopping in. So a couple of things that I was going to plan on doing today, was, showing you, I know Eric especially asked about my RC600 setup. It's not that advanced, especially compared to other people who use it. People like Matt Bolton on YouTube. There's some other people who do a lot more MIDI stuff with it. The reason I'm not doing that is because I perform out a lot and I don't want to overload it because there's been a lot of reports of it crashing if it has too much going on inside of it. Plus, for what I do, I don't need to do that. And I know I say that as somebody who's like surrounded by thousands of dollars of equipment. So I get the irony in what I just said. But anyway, so we can go over that. My basic, is everybody following me so far? Is this good? Are we bored? I'll get to the questions, or open it up for questions in just a second. But of anything I just said, do you guys need any clarity? And by the way, with YouTube, there's a delay between what you guys see and what I'm broadcasting, so there's always this awkward pause. You're with me, okay? Okay, we're all good. Here is my basic looping setup, and going back to Keller Williams in the early 2000s, the internet was limited at that point, so it's not like you could see everybody's rig, but I went to some of his shows and kind of like sort of tried to get to the front of the stage and like looked at it. One of the things that he changed my mind about was how at that time you could use a mixer that had aux outs. And that's the way that you could do your loop all of your instruments. So not just a guitar into your looper, but actually go into a mixer. And he was using an Allen and Heath Mix Wizard, which I actually had one at one time. And then I sold it for way too cheap. That guy who got it, I got a screaming deal on it. But aux outs in mixers are stand for auxiliary outs. And basically what they are is you can send a signal of any of your channels that are going in your mixer out into an external thing like a looper. So when I learned that from Keller, that like changed my life. So I went through a bunch of different mixers. I used, like I said, a Mix Wizard, an Allen and Heath Mix Wizard at one point. I used some Mackie mixers, and then ended up, a really cool mixer. It was like Mackie had like the first iPad mixer, and that was really amazing until it shut down on me. And then eventually I got a Behringer XR18, and I'll get to the clock sync in 1 second, by the way. And I found this out, one, because people started buying it and you would see people posting about how they got a Behringer XR18. I always stayed away from Behringer products because they used to be really cheap and like would break, like predictably break very quickly. But they upped their game, came out with this little mixer here, and I don't think you can see it in any of the videos because it's under this keyboard right here. But it's iPad controlled. People like Matt Bolton, who's kind of a famous now looper on YouTube, he uses one. I've actually been able to pick his brain on some of it. So I was like, once my Mackie iPad mixer broke, I was like, got to get a new one. Got a Behringer. Friggin' love this thing. I think it's amazing. And I use a mixing station app. I don't use the Behringer app on my iPad, so I control all the channels, everything on my iPad, which also, by the way, has OnSong on it, which is all my lyrics, because I'm getting old and I can't remember lyrics. So all of my instruments go into there, and here you go. I'm going to bring up a document now because okay, this should be showing up in just a second. Okay, I don't know if you can see that on whatever screen you're watching me on, but if you need to, you can go back and you can watch this on your computer or something like that, and then blow it up, or I can send you the doc too. But this is how my mixer is run, and basically, I won't go through all the instruments because that'll get really boring, but all of my instruments I have. HandSonic. This is actually my oldest keyboard that I have. It's a Korg Triton Taktile. And I learned about this from a buddy of mine who had one. And it just has some stuff in it that I think is so unique and so friggin' so cool. I think Korg nailed the sounds. One is I like their hi-hats on it. Because I do a lot of upbeat music and I'm not a drummer by any means, I like doing like disco hi-hats, and for some reason I just like it because it kind of sounds a little shakerish. So I use that kind of thing a lot. Probably one of my weakest points of sounds within my setup is bass. Referring back to Matt Bolton again, he has dialed in using his guitar and octave pedal, and he has a sweet bass sound, but he also plays electric guitar. So, I wish I had his sound, but it's really hard to find on acoustic guitar, even using an octave pedal. So I use the bass on here just to give low end. It doesn't really sound a lot like the bass. Oh, let me get off sorry. There we go. Sorry, I had the document still up. So by the way, going back over here, because I know that document was up, my Taktile is this keyboard at top up here. So I use it for a bunch of different stuff. I kind of like the reggae organ on it. And for a while when I would play out, because one of the questions I get is, do I take all of this stuff out with me when I play gigs? Not usually, especially this keyboard, which is my Midi keyboard. I'll get to it in just a second. And I have to have my computer too. I try to avoid the computer. So usually if I play a gig out today, I'll definitely have this keyboard, usually have this keyboard down here, and my guitar, my pedals, and the HandSonic. Because it would also just take way too long to set up set up like the entire setup. That's kind of the embarrassing thing of being a looper when you play out. If you're not super compact, you have to tell them like, hey, I have to have an hour and a half to set up. I also live stream all my shows, so I have to like set up that stuff too. And if you're a looper and you play out, you probably get what I'm saying. Okay. So that's this. This is my Kaossilator Pro. I've had this thing forever. I actually had to fix it and re-weld some things in it. I use this for a bunch of different stuff. A lot of times just filler synth stuff. And what it is, it's this pad you can touch. And when you move it around, it moves to different notes. And there's all different kind of sounds in too. You know, you can do like all this kind of stuff. I tend to create all of my loops in the moment, so I don't use pre-recorded loops. However, on here, sometimes I'll use, and this is where I'm going to get to the Midi sync thing. It has like some drum loops that you can trigger with your hand. I try not to do that. Okay, Midi sync. So we'll hit this when we go to the RC600 and I tell you how I set up the RC600. Which is my looper. I have tempo sync going out of it. And it goes to this, the Kaossilator, and the Yamaha MODX Plus 6 keyboard. That's down here. And the reason for that is because I will sync some rhythms from here, and I will definitely sync rhythms from down here on this thing, which I'll get to in right now, actually. So moving down to the Yamaha, I use this for a bunch of stuff. By the way, how's everybody doing? Are we... Oh, Aaron, it takes you an hour to set it. Yeah, right. This is the burden of being a looper these days. I just want to make sure I'm following on the chat and not just talking over everybody. Okay, so this was a purchase I made last year. I've used different keyboards. I like Yamaha sounds the best. I don't have the money to afford a Nord keyboard. My dad has one. But I actually like the Yamaha feel, and I don't love weighted keys, even though I have a piano background. For looping and stuff like that, I like synth weighted keys. It's just, I can feel it better that way. And often it just feels artificial if you have, a lot of these companies make semi-auto or even weighted keys, and they just don't feel like weighted keys like a piano does. But I love this thing, and I'll use it for all the piano stuff. I'll use it for keyboard stuff. It has some killer Rhodes sounds on it. Because I cover a lot of jam band music like Fish and String Cheese Incident and some of those kind of, and then I love like New Orleans funk, like the Meters and Trombone Shorty and Dr. John and all of those. It's got some, so I play quite a bit of funk music. It also has some pretty cool clav sounds. And I'm not very good at keyboards, by the way. But it has that, has some okay organ sounds, that's using the expression on it. And the different ones have like... Any String Cheese Incident fans. And then I use a lot of synth stuff, brass, woodwind stuff, kind of everything. And I actually like the drum sounds on here. I know a lot of people who have the HandSonic will do drum stuff over here. Again, we keep referring back to Matt Bolton. He does all of his drum stuff on here. I think he uses a shaker as well. I just like the keyboard. It's kind of cheesy, and I get that. But but I think they did a great job at capturing some of the good drum sounds on here, especially if you're not using plugins, which is probably where you'll find the realest sounds. So anyway, and then why I have a tempo sync for this is because I use a lot of synths that are tempo synced. So whatever the tempo is coming out of my looper that I've set, meaning it's detected what I've looped, that tempo will go into here. So, for instance, I'll lay down a loop and then I'll show you the tempo sync to it. So I'll do something like, you know, like that kind of stuff. It's great to add texture to what you're doing, and it's a cool way to, you know, sync everything together. Let me say something about the clock, the MIDI clock stuff. So there's been a lot of failed attempts by companies with loopers to create a sturdy MIDI clock. If you're in the looping community, it's a constant discussion. I think Boss, and actually going to the Headrush looper board that's a paperweight now, that was one of the biggest disappointments about it, is it didn't sync MIDI clock very well. Because if you're a looper and you use tempo-based stuff, you want to be able to sync everything, and you couldn't with that. I find the RC600 to be awesome. Now they updated recently and kind of screwed up the tempo MIDI clock in it, so you had to revert back to the old version of it, which is what I did. But I think it does a fantastic job. And the other one, for a while, just because it's computer based, Ableton was a really good MIDI clock syncing device too, and that was super old technology at that time as well. But yeah, that is the only thing I use MIDI out of the RC600 for. Yeah, 1.21 for life, exactly. And then over here, going back to our instruments, I am using. Are you all familiar with Mainstage? Apple's Mainstage. It's its own software program, and they made it really affordable actually recently. What it is it's basically like a software that holds all your sounds to use out of live. So it's kind of like a keyboard where you can scroll through sounds to find the sound you want, but it's all laid out on here. At least that's what I use it for. I don't know if you can do other stuff with it. You can't see my computer. I have like hundreds of sounds in Mainstage, and I control it with this very cheap keyboard. It's a Nektar Impact LX25 Plus. It's pretty old by now. I mainly use it. I mean, there's, like I said, there's like hundreds of sounds in here, but I don't want to sit there and scroll through while I'm in a performance because it gets old. That's one of the things about looping is, and we can talk philosophy of looping in just a second, but, you got to keep everything kind of going because it can get really old after a while to listen to a loop play and play and play and nobody's doing anything. So as I've gotten older with the looping stuff, I'm trying to be more concise with it. One of the ones, probably the one I use more than anything, is the violin sound on here. It's the Chris Hine Violin VST. It's a plugin. It has nothing to do with Apple. It's a third-party plugin. And I love it because it has that real like feel to it. And my friends on Insight Timer who are on here, I use it a lot on Insight Timer because which is a meditation app, by the way. And I use it with a lot of soothing sounds. So I'll do a demo for you of where I use it, like a song I would use it on. So I love that song. That sound. I'm so obsessed with that sound that in the stuff I write in my studio, like actually record and write, I use that violin stuff. I should be sponsored by Chris Hines Violin Sounds because I use it so much, and people have heard it who have listened to any of my meditation stuff or any of that. I always have that in there. Oh, nice. Brad's ready to walk down it. Okay, moving on. This is a Roland HDP or HPD rather. I think it's HPD 20. I've had basically all the iterations of this drum pad. So I had the previous one, which I can't remember what it was called. It was like bluer, and I've had different ones of these. I use this mostly for percussion stuff and some drum stuff. I don't incorporate it as much as its ability is, or what it can do. But I friggin' love it. Because I'll do like a lot of world music. I like, or like Latin stuff or things like that. I'll use it, use all the different sounds in it. And then I've set up a drum set, which it's okay. But I'll use some of that kind of things. It has I've used tablas and, it's pretty awesome. Most loopers out there are like getting this. Another thing that I don't use, but I'm not using right now, but every so often I'll incorporate it, is this pedal. It's called the Beat Buddy by Singular Sound. A lot of loopers use this too. Basically, it's pre-recorded drum loops. But so I'll use it every so often. It's like covered in dog hair right now. It actually broke on me, and I had to like figure a way around it. Beat Buddy's pretty popular among the looping community. Okay, and then the last thing, and then we can I'll open it up to questions to you guys of what you want to ask, is how am I using the RC600? I'm going to bring up another document. This time I'll take it off, and yeah, you can screenshot it if you want. It'll be coming up in just a second. Okay, that is the reference guide to how I set up my Boss loop pedal. So, you guys can read through that at some point if you want, but I'll give you the basics. So the loop pedals is split into inputs, outputs. We've already talked about the Midi, and then it has some expression controls that I use as well on it. For its inputs, it has two mic inputs, a left and a right mic input, or just two separate mic inputs, meaning XLR. And then it has two instrument inputs. That's right? I think yeah. So, or maybe there's two sets of, hold on. There's two sets of stereo instrument inputs, meaning 1/4 inch. So here's how I run it. My microphone goes into this Voicelive. It's a TC Helicon Voicelive. This is where you hear all of my harmonies. And I'm going to show you how they stay in tune. So here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. So I love this harmony pedal. I also have like choir sounds on it as well. So here's more harmonies. Give me the beat, boy, free my soul. I wanna get lost in your rock and roll. Now drift away. And then it has, let's see.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away.
Yeah, so it has like a choir. You can do a bunch of different stuff with it. I have all different settings. I have like another one or another brick in the wall, like that sound effect on there. It is detecting my key because I have coming out of my mixer, my Behringer mixer, out of one of the aux outs is my guitar signal, which goes into it, reads the key I'm playing in, and it detects it for the harmony. It's a game changer. That pedal is a game changer. The issue with the pedal is it's easy to overuse. And then suddenly you now are like, as though you're like using auto tune. And I've definitely been through those things where I like just use it way too much. And I've seen other artists do that too. They just kind of start relying on it. So I have to like constantly remind myself, like, don't put harmony to everything or, you know, or whatever, because you don't want to become so unnatural that you're now like, you know, a hip hop artist from the 2000s where it's just not even your voice anymore. So anyway, back to the RC600. The signal out of this Voicelive, which is what my microphone's going into, goes into the mono mic input, or rather, I think it's just the first mic input into the RC600. I'm running that through one of the sub outputs of the RC600 that goes into its own channel into the Behringer mixer. So, and the reason I'm doing that is because one of my tracks on the Boss RC600, actually the fourth track, is just looping my voice. It doesn't loop anything else. So, for instance, as I told you, I'm an awful beatboxer. But I'll do like, I can put in some vocal harmonies. I also can loop this guy, which is a very cheap Hohner melodica. So... So that is the, so I can loop with that. And then, I have MIDI expression, not MIDI, expression controls, which the looper has 4 of them. 2 of them are dedicated to effects that only go to my mic on that channel, that track 4. And it's heavier reverb. Check, check, shh. And delay. Shh, 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 shh. So if I'm, hi Blossom, hey friend. So if I'm doing like a reggae song, let me find one. Well, I'll use the delay effect on it. Going to land down under, shot, 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 shot. You know, something like that. So that's, and you can do all different kinds of stuff, especially if you do like ambient stuff. It's cool to use your mic and some of those kind of things. By the way, anybody who's tuning in, welcome to my live stream rig rundown. And we're talking about my loop pedal settings right now. Okay, into the instrument inputs of the RC600 is the two aux outs. Remember I talked about aux outs earlier for mixers, how Keller Williams taught me. I have a left and a right going into this HX effects down here. So what I decided to do, often people who use a pedal like the RC600, there's great effects inside of it. I actually decided I wanted to not overload with a bunch of assignments to the effects in there, to use this external Line 6 HX effects. So I will use this for a lot of reverbs. And what's happening is all my instruments that I want to loop go through this HX effects. So for instance, if you have a piano, I've got, here are the different effects that I use on this. So reverb, which I also love, by the way, for doing percussion stuff. It sounds real spacey. Yes, everything I run into the mixer is mono. I might eventually do my microphone in stereo to do like some panning effects, but it's just easier that way, and also it doesn't take up a bunch of channels that on my mixer. Okay, so that's one of them. This is like one of the coolest effects ever. It's called the Octave reverb effect. I love this thing. Check this out. So this is the Octave. It's like this magical, like sparkling sound. I love that. I've got tremolo, which I'll use on like keyboard stuff. So, regular tremolo. Actually, I probably need to slow that tremolo down, but, although I think it's going to the tempo of what we have. And then I have a bunch of delays at the top. So reverse. I have a sweep. And then a simple delay. And again, all of these can be used with any instruments. So if you want to do like that octave thing. Yeah. Okay, so that goes between the instruments coming out of the mixer and the looper pedal. And I'm running stereo into them. So even though I'm going mono instruments in, for the effect's sake, I like to do stereo. So I'm going, and there's another reason too, and I'll tell you in just a second. So I go left, right, out of an aux, out of the Behringer into the HX effects, left, right, output of the HX effects into the first left, right instrument inputs, quarter-inch inputs of the RC600. The outputs, the main left-right output of the RC600 goes back into the Behringer mixer because I have to have a loop return. The looper has to send a signal back. Goes back into the Behringer, and I'm not sending the signal that's going back into the Behringer back into the loop because it would be chaotic and it'd be this distorted craziness mess, if that makes sense. And then the sub output, like I said, is going to for the mic. And then I already said one of the controls, or one of the expression controls, actually two of the expression controls are the delay and reverb for my mic. The other one is this pedal down here, which I don't know if you can see. It's under the drum pad, this external pedal. This is my play stop for all of the loopers, for all the looping stuff. So I have a play stop is one of the buttons, and then all clear is the other button. So it clears all of the loops, so I can just start from scratch, because I start every song from scratch. I don't save any presets into the Boss looper. I don't save any loops into it. Everything's created on the spot. Okay. The last, I kind of think the last gear talk that I'll do is talk about my ever-changing guitar pedal board, which I know you probably can't see very well. But again, I listed all of it into the description of this live stream under the video. Yeah, that's a great point about the clear. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I can say one other thing. One of the most important things when it comes to looping is not to change up your setup too often, which I've done in the past. I've had like different buttons, different anywhere. And the reason for that is because if you're really comfortable looping and you're looping in front of people, often you're not going to look down. So you're going by muscle memory, meaning I know when I hit this button right here, I knew that was stop for track 1, because I know my leg going that way hits it. Okay. And so to respond to the all clear, I know it's back further than the all stop. And I know that all stop is right there to do. So that's why it just works for me. I can see why that would be dangerous. All right, going to my guitar pedal board. This also changes constantly, almost weekly. I interchange pedals out of it. I have a cabinet over here full of pedals that I've collected over the years. I truly am like a vintage collector, although none of my pedals are like actually worth that much money. What I have is I have my second HX effects. So the same pedal is over here, but this just goes for my guitar. The patches I have in it right now are, okay, this is actually going to be my favorite to talk about. This effect has so much meaning to me, and I don't know if people actually like it. I think I'm probably one of the only people who likes it. It's the rotary drum effect, and it sounds a little like a B3. This is what it sounds like. Who taught me about that B3 effect, or that rotary drum effect, was I went and saw this phenomenal guitar player. Some of you know who he is, named Charlie Hunter. Charlie Hunter plays an 8-string guitar. And what it is he has, I think, 3 bass strings on top. So it's a guitar that's both a bass and a regular guitar. And he plays it all at the same time. But when I saw him one time, I was like, dude, how does he have his guitar sound like a B3 organ? And then I started doing a little research about it, listened to some interviews, and it was like, oh, he uses like this rotary drum effect. And I love that thing. Again, I'm not sure anybody else likes it, but I like it, and I love using it for lead, and especially because I'm primarily an acoustic player. I absolutely love it. So I use it for different things. I've got this chorus effect. It's a really heavy chorus effect, and adding this HX effects is actually a fairly new thing that I've done, like as of last week. My dad gave it to me because he got a different pedal, which was really sweet of him to do. So I need to dial in the chorus. It's a little too wobbly. And then I have an overdrive. It's just like a simple overdrive. Phaser. Univibe. And then another tremolo, which is kind of a cool effect if you have like kind of a spacey thing going on. I like using. I've got a Crybaby MultiWah. No, I haven't tried any of the impulse responses. I should do that. I have this octave effect. I like doing that with solos every so often. Last year, I bought this Both synthesizer SY1 pedal. It's okay. It kind of has this cool. I dial in this cool bell effect to it. I don't know. It's just something. I don't know why it's on there. Okay. Especially for funk people, I think it's pretty important to have a auto wah effect. And so I've got this. That's a very big Jerry Garcia thing, and he used this like crazy expensive Mutron pedal that I would never afford. Also, it's huge and it wouldn't fit on the board. Going next over is a Hall of Fame reverb pedal that I always keep on, and then a digital delay that I've used for like slapback. It's real sudden, but it kind of gives a fuller thing, and that goes into an LR Baggs. Okay, last thing I'll say is my actual guitars, which I've talked about on here. This is my main guitar. My music background, my music history background is, I grew up. I started playing violin when I was 3, and started performing when I was 5. Got tired of the violin and decided to move to the piano. And then I studied piano for several years. And I come from a music family. My dad's side of the family is all musicians, including my dad. And my dad was primarily a guitar player growing up, and I just always loved listening to him play guitar. So he taught me some guitar stuff, and then I immediately fell in love with guitar. I started on electric because the first album I started learning was Metallica's Black Album back in the early 90s. That's how long ago this was. And so I got a distortion pedal and I was playing a little bit. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I discovered the wonderful South African named Dave Matthews. This was, I came across my sister's CD of Under the Table and Dreaming in 93, I think. Immediately fell in love with the sound of that band. And I was like, this is fun. It was something about it just grabbed me. And really loved his style of playing the guitar. I'd never heard anybody play guitar like that before. Really fell in love with like the percussion aspects and what you could do. And also I was like one of those kids in the 90s that would go to parties and, play for the girls at the parties, and you didn't haul an amp and your electric guitar to the party. You'd bring an acoustic guitar. So of course, in the 90s I was that douchebag. Yes, I will say that. And that was before everybody knew how to play guitar at a party. You were actually kind of special. But so I did that for years. And I just stuck with acoustic guitar until I went to jazz school. And then I had to play electric. So I played this other guitar. And I was briefly in jazz school. I first started at the University of the Arts of Philadelphia, and got accepted right before I started to go there. I got accepted at Belmont University in Nashville and got really enthralled with the idea of going to Nashville because that's like where all the musicians went and they all became big there. But what was funny is what I loved more than anything was not pop music. I loved jazz, because when you're in Philly and you're so close to New York, I mean, there's some amazing players that came through that I got a chance to play with actually too. And so I went to Belmont and I was there for just a year and I dropped out. I did not like Nashville. This was in 2003, or 2002 rather. I didn't like music school. I know Blossom's on here. Blossom her and I've had similar experiences with music school, I think. It was too competitive. It totally stripped the joy of music away from me. And what I loved during that year I was there was actually playing at coffee houses and bars in Nashville. And that's where I just thrived. Just Nashville wasn't for me. And I didn't love, I just got a bad taste in my mouth for the music industry. I had a lot of friends who were involved in it. I'm still good friends. I'm friends. One of my good friends is the guy who is currently the keyboardist and band leader for Carrie Underwood. His name's Scott Sheriff. He's a phenomenal guy. But I had friends like that who were like in the industry, and so I'd hear a lot of stuff. And I was approached by some labels who, and I was doing this whole looping thing back when looping wasn't, nobody was really doing it. So it caught the eye of some people. But I just needed to get out of there. I was actually like becoming broke, and my parents were living in Seattle. So then I ended up moving out to Seattle, and I was in Seattle for 20 years. But anyway, while I was in music school, I had to play electric because we were doing a lot of jazz stuff. And this is, it's way out of tune. Was passed on to me by my grandpa, who I was named after, actually. I'm the second. He died when I was 6. So I didn't really get a chance to talk with him, but he was primarily actually a lap steel guitar player. He was a fiddle player as well. And then he played some guitar too. And he played in country bands. This was out in Illinois in the Midwest. Shout out to Illinois. So he left me this guitar. So I used this all through music school, and it was great. It has actually some pretty cool tones to it, but I primarily play acoustic. Every so often I'll take this out, or if I record with it. So anyway, give me your questions. I thanks for listening to my monologue, my very long monologue. Oh, and by the way, I didn't say what that guitar was. That's a Gretsch Country Gentleman Chet Atkins, semi-hollow body, 1976. And it has definitely had some work done to it. The pots in it went out at one point, so we had to put some money into it. But yeah, did I answer all the questions? You guys can ask me anything you want. I also didn't talk about my production on here as well, like using OBS, and I have a green screen and some of that stuff. Maybe that's just... What program is producing that trippy background? Oh, the background on here. I've collected all these looped backgrounds from everywhere. I don't know where specifically I got this, but I've bought like packages in the past of like psychedelic, backgrounds. And actually, I'm going to go back to the main camera view. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So that's where that's from, and I'll cycle through them for different live streams. Probably on this computer, I probably have like 30 of them. I certainly haven't shown all my cards. Some of them that are a little less, I have some that are chaotic, and I've heard from people who watch my live streams that are like, I'm car sick while I'm watching your live stream, because it's like way too trippy. Sometimes I'll use those when I think to slow them down, but everything's going through OBS. I love OBS. I've tried Streamlabs. I've tried some other stuff, but OBS, in my opinion, is the bomb for broadcasting live streams. One other thing about the Behringer mixer. I also go stereo. Two of the aux outputs out of it is going to my live stream mix. So what's cool with that mixer is you can actually assign the aux outs to be USB outs. And so if you're listening with headphones, you might hear one instrument more in this area and one instrument in that area. Sharing about all this, Rob, makes listening to your music even more interesting, knowing everything that goes into it. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Anything else? I wasn't planning on giving like such a long monologue. I probably just like fit everything else in there. Oh, that's a great question. Do I listen to a click? No. I don't listen to a click. I listen to a click when I record music at my desktop over there. No. I will say this. One of the things that I appreciate, I understandably know that the Dave Matthews Band gets a lot of crap because the truth is a lot of people can't stand his voice, and I get that. He wakes up in the morning, that whole thing. I totally get it. But one of the things that listening to the music growing up, and especially the Dave Matthews Band, especially with their drummer Carter Beauford, who's one of the most incredible drummers in the world, is teaching. If you listen to it enough, you learn to be in the pocket. And ever since I was younger, I always had like really good rhythm. I'm kind of actually surprised I didn't become a drummer because I'm just like, I kind of have a click going in my head. So I don't use a click. It would be distracting for me to do that. And then once I get a loop going, it's kind of a click in itself. So yeah. Oh, that's a great question about time-based effects. Um, I don't do any time-based effects after the loops. That would be cool to do. I've seen it done. I think I may have done a little bit of that when I was using Ableton back in the day. But no, all my time-based effects are going to my instruments and then into the loop. Does that answer your question? Yeah. What's interesting about that actually is he with the time-based effects. I was a DJ for like 10 years, not too long ago actually, and so when you're a DJ, if you're like actually mixing and doing stuff, it's real interesting to add like, little delays onto your mix that you're doing to kind of line up. And at one point I remember being like, oh, I'm going to do that. And then I never got into it. I do have to record one track to get the tempo. Yeah, that's for sure. One of the other things actually about tempo and the looper in general is if you do a slow enough tempo, often it will double it in its algorithm and shoot out the double BPM of it. What I mean by that is if you're going at like an 80, you're doing a real slow 80 BPM. Sometimes it doesn't read it and it just goes, okay, well, we're just going to go to 160 because 80 plus 80 is 160. The problem with that is then it's sending out, instead of this, it's sending out this. And when you're going to use some of your tempo sync stuff, you don't want to like push a button because over like a, the effect's going to go, which can be kind of, I guess, somewhat cool, but you have to be kind of careful with it. I mean, the thing about my particular looping is I actually think it looks more complicated than it actually is. Because there's so much equipment around me, there are people out there, and maybe some of you are these people that do way more with like mixing loops and, you know, doing effects after the loop, or, you know, MIDI configurations and all that kind of stuff. It's really, I don't think I'm really doing that much of maybe I should. And that's another reason why sometimes I read, you know, some of the looper forums, because you can pick up ideas, or you can pick up ideas from people that live stream on you know, on the web. And often people are nice enough to tell you, you know, again, referring back to Matt Bolton, who, you know, who is a looper, kind of well-known looper now on here. He's awesome about responding to people who have questions about what he's doing. And that's kind of why I decided to do this today is, you know, I'm 44 now, and, I don't think I'm like past my prime, or I don't feel like I'm past my prime, but I'm definitely past the competitive, what am I trying to say? The competitive approach to music. And I used to be really competitive. I used to be like, how can I stick out from other people? Like, how can I be different? How can I get attention and others can't? And I never really was like a belittler of other people, but I definitely had this thing of like, I don't want to share my secrets at this point. But that's such a lame approach. And as musicians, I definitely have grown up and matured in knowing that we're all a community and we can all share ideas with each other, and we should make music together. That was, yeah. And that's a little bit kind of refers back to my, my Nashville days. Is there was a lot of that competition in Nashville. Like, how can I be better than this person and this person? And it's so tiring. And it's actually a bad look. So that's why I try to be as giving as I can with music. Like I had a guy from Lowe's, the hardware store, came to our house because he was measuring to possibly put some hardwoods in, and he saw my setup up here, and he's like, dude, like, oh, you have a looper. Like, I've always wanted to get into looping. It's like kind of expensive and can't do it. And I had an extra old Boss RC5 or RC50 in my cabinet of pedals. And I was like, dude, just take it. I didn't know him. The first time I ever met him. And I was just like, take it, because you'll be able to make amazing music with it. And hopefully, or you'll be able to explore this. And we as musicians should be givers. I fully believe. Yeah, that's a great question, JV. Am I excited? Am I excited about innovative things? Yeah, I am. Let me be totally transparent with you and tell you guys, one of my, what's the kindest word I can use for this about me? I was going to say downfall, but I wouldn't call it a downfall. One of the things that kind of handicaps me as a creative person, actually has to do with, some mental struggle I've had in my life. So I probably have an undiagnosed bit of OCD. And we don't have to get into like therapy talk right now or like mental illness talk, but the nature of OCD is actually based in anxiety for the most. I'm not saying that's for everybody, but for me at least, my OCD is because I can often carry around a bit of anxiety with me, and so I am for sure a creature of comfort, and I tend to often get trapped into just going to familiar things, and not exploring new things. I got really lucky that I married a woman who loves exploration and like loves to like listen to new music and all that, because I can really get stuck in the same repetition, the same things over and over again. And the reason I say that to the question you asked about like excited about new innovation is it is constantly a challenge for me to explore more and learn more from other people. Maybe this kind of coincides with me trying to be more of a giver as a musician than a taker so much, is that often I can just kind of listen to some of the same music. I can, sort of circulate on that. So, being part of some of these Facebook groups, these like looper Facebook groups that are out there is great because people give you ideas. I have to force myself to sit down and actually do that, if that makes sense. Oh, totally. The AI thing, you're talking about the AI stuff. It'll be interesting where it goes. I know there's rightfully so a lot of people who are terrified of AI and what it can already do and what the potential of it can do. I've heard some great interviews with some musicians, pretty accomplished musicians, talking about AI and the effect on it. And I know there's been people out there who have like already written albums using AI. I think I heard Eddie Vedder saying this recently in an interview, about how the one of the things that the AI can't do is give you the experience of discovery in the songwriting process or the creative process. The issue with AI often is it's just giving you things without putting work into it, which is very tempting to me. But it's also a great tool and can be used in cool ways. I mean, like for instance, when I write music, if I'm stuck on a word and I want to try to rhyme something, I will go onto the internet to the rhymezone.com, I think is what it's called, where you can put in a word and it'll show you all the words that rhyme with it. That is a form of AI. I'm using AI to put one of those, to find a lyric to put in there. But AI, at least right now, can't tap into your heart and bring stuff out with discovery. That's my take on AI. Well, why don't we? This can be an ongoing discussion. I mean, as I said, during our lives, I can certainly. I'm always open to answering questions, and especially if I develop stuff or add something. For instance, I have a pedal I just ordered that's coming next week, I think. It's for acoustic players. There's this I kind of ordered it because everybody keeps talking about it. I don't quite know if it's actually going to fit, but it's this pedal called the Body Res. It's for acoustic players and it's like an acoustic enhancer. And I just want to hear what it sounds like with my rig. I love the way my guitar sounds. I've worked hours and hours, countless of hours trying to dial in my tone and all that kind of stuff. But I have that pedal coming. And so, when I live stream, I'll let you guys know and be like, hey, this is, what do you think? What does this sound like? So, yeah. Oh, Matt used it? Okay. I think I heard it over some kind of music forum or maybe like Sweetwater. It showed up Sweetwater wise. Well, you guys have listened to me like talk too much, really. So I'm just going to play another song, maybe another song or two. I actually have a Zoom call I have to jump on in just a bit. So I have a ton of time, but I do sincerely hope this was helpful. And feel free to find me on the socials. And if you have any questions, message me on Facebook or Instagram or I think my email is in the description of the video too. You can email me. I'm always happy to coach you in whatever way. And if you also have suggestions, you've listened to me talk about my setup, and if you think, oh, dude, you could do this and it will save this amount of time, or this would be something really cool to add, please tell me. I love suggestions. Nothing is engraved in stone. And then the one other thing is I am actively trying to build this YouTube page, and I get that. Well, I don't think it's ever too late. At least right now, it's not. And some of you have already so helped me in sharing my videos and sharing these things with others or telling people about it. It would truly help me if you continued to do that, especially as I build. I'm building. I hate the word follower, but you guys know what I mean. I'm building like a following here in Central Oregon by playing out around Bend and around this area, and I'm constantly trying to direct people to my social medias. But I'm specifically really wanting to invest into YouTube. So please tell people about it, and tell me if you live stream some places or you have videos or whatever, let me know. Let us know. I'm happy. Promote yourself on, using my platform as well. Happy. Yeah. For that. Well, we talked a lot about Dave, and I'm going to play one of my favorite songs that I play often on here. But it's a great looping song, and or at least I've turned it into a looping song. Life, it seems a struggle between what we think and what we see. I'm not going to change my ways just to please you or appease you. Inside a crowd, 5 billion proud, willing to punch it out. Right, wrong, weak, strong, ashes to ashes, all fall down. Oh, look around about this, round about this, merry-go-round and around. If at all God's gaze upon us fall, his mischievous grin, look at him, forget about the reasons and the treasons we are seeking. Forget about the notion that your emotions can be swept away. Forget about being guilty, I'm innocent instead. soon we will all find our lives swept away. Oh, sit a while with TVs, hungry child, big belly swell. Oh, for the price of a Coke or a smoke, we could keep alive those hungry eyes. Oh, take a look at me, what you see in me, mirror, look at me. Face it all again. Forget about the reasons and the treasons we are seeking. Forget about the notion that your emotions can be swept away. Forget about being guilty, we are innocent instead. For soon we will all find our lives swept away. You seek up an emotion and our cup is overflowing. You seek up an emotion, sometimes your well is dry. You seek up an monster to fight your wars for you, but when he finds his way to you, the devil's not going ha ha ha. Take it all down into my grave, you know I'd safe and safe. Take a look again, take a look again, take a look again. Well, every day things change, oh, but basically they stay the same. Forget about the reasons and the treasons we are seeking. Forget about the notion that your emotions can be swept away. Intentions are not wicked, don't be tricked into thinking so. Soon we will all find our lives swept away. You know how it is? Seek up an emotion and your cup is overflowing. Seek up an emotion, sometimes your well is dry. Hey! Seek up a monster for him to fight your wars for you. When he finds his way to you, the devil's not going ha ha ha. Fall back again. Fall back again. Fall back right, friends. Thanks so much. This was a blast today. I really, really appreciate it. I am going to be back tomorrow, and I am going to do, once again, a all 80s, 90s set tomorrow. I think we'll schedule either 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's some of my favorite era of music. So I'll do all songs from the 80s and 90s. Thanks again. So appreciate all the questions, the comments, the encouragement. I hope this was helpful to you all. All right, have a good night or morning or day wherever you are.